Well, hello there, how is everyone? I hope you are all well. I hope this week has been treating you well so far. Now, it looks like it has, because you look amazing, by the way. And look, we've got some meat and potatoes to get into today, so I'm not going to keep you around too long. I'm going to crack on and get on with it. So look, we're going to be talking about something that happened at the beginning of this year over at Washington State University, because to kind of bring all this to a conclusion, because there was a case at the beginning of the year, a young guy lost his life over at Washington State University, and obviously that case, as the year has progressed, that should have progressed. Or has it indeed regressed? But anyway, so we talk about the frat boy theory. Right, the frat boy theory. This is all about whether the Idaho 4 case, what happened, was a little bit more closer to home. And not so much about this random person with seemingly absolutely no connection to the victims ventured over one night, conveniently just after they are all seemingly settled in after a busy night out doing their own thing on what would have been a football night, and took the lives of these four students, leaving two witnesses behind. Well, witnesses... Anyway... hazing and frat boys and all this kind of stuff. Is this something that could have been part of what happened to the Idaho 4? And are there clues that would tell you whether it did or it didn't? And I think there's clues that could potentially say, yes, it did happen this way, and there's clues that could have told you that it didn't happen this way. So let's go through them. So first of all, we know that there was issues between these students. And what I mean is there were seemingly issues between Ethan, David Loach, so on and so forth. And what I will say, legal disclaimer obviously, is that every single person we discuss in these videos is innocent of anything until proven otherwise in a court of law. That does include Brian Koberger, although some people forget to accept that. I appreciate that he is prime suspect, but what we're looking at here is a potential that perhaps this isn't so much about some random guy from across the ways a bit that came over one night and came and done this crime, but more about someone a little bit closer to home who perhaps by default had all of the information that they needed in order to commit this crime in the manner with which it looks to have been committed, and that is potentially with help, to help them subdue everybody and keep things more sort of under control and know where to go when they went into the house and get away and this sort of stuff. Not so much like a lone ninja stroke idiot stroke PhD doctorate students. Do you know what I mean? There's arguments for and against, and we're just going to touch on them. So look, we've got a situation where, yeah, there's this issue. There seems to be arguments. There seems to be something to do with Ethan having a go at Loach regarding potential, Loach wanting to perhaps get with Xana, and there's this thing in the background, and there's a conversation over steroid use, and this spirals into an argument about shrunken testy balls and all sorts, and it gets nasty. It gets so nasty that Xana has to step in and say, "Oi, let's fucking wind it up. Let's wind it up, go our separate ways, and get out of here." She took Ethan by the hand and took him away. Got him out of there, and they would go home. You would think, after this fight, home. So they go out of the equation. You've then got a situation where you've got the other girls over at the grub truck, and they walk away with Adam, and they're having this conversation. What did you tell Adam? And this conversation is a bone of contention for many. She told Adam everything, and they're going to get you for this. That was conversation that we heard. Has it any relevance to it? We don't know, but there seems to again be a situation where the victims are involved in these little conversations, communications, that if you step back and look at what happened later on that night, you could almost say, could that, of what happened in that situation, have escalated into what we saw? Or is it both, that these were just completely coincidental? Now let's look at the crime itself, and I did just briefly touch on it, the fact that we have a situation that would seemingly lead you to believe that a guy came over from Washington to Idaho, driving his own car, with his own phone switched off, and then would drive his own car round in front of all the cameras, go up to the house, and then get into the house and very, very quickly, efficiently, violently dispatch 4 victims. Then leave, taking no evidence with him whatsoever. His car would later be checked, his house, his home, his parents' home, every single thing around his particulars, and they would not find any evidence or any evidence of trying to remove said evidence. So we've got a massive sort of void of evidence that came from the house. But obviously we do have a knife sheath with touch DNA on it, and we can't deny that that does look suspicious. But he was from Washington at the end of the day. He was a PhD candidate student, doctorate student, TA, teaching, involved in all these children. How many of them kids do you think that he's shook their hands? Congratulations, you listened to me, you've upped your game and you're fantastic. Or how many pieces of paper do you think he has touched because he is marked? And then the students have themselves touched the paperwork after he has marked them. Believe it or not, as far as a stretch as that seems, that's how touch DNA can very easily be transferred across the board. It's pretty safe to say that Bryan Kohberger touched something that a student would have touched in hundreds of cases. Hundreds of cases. And that's just a fact. I know it's a fact that not many people want to hear, and do you know what? It might be that that is nothing to do with the crime. He just did do it. But I've not seen enough evidence yet, and I'm well aware of this situation, of how DNA can be transferred, and that's why I'm more open to it, because we've seen it happen in other cases. And I'm not quite ready to whack the nail in the coffin just yet. But so, yeah, in terms of the frats, we have situations where they have been seen to be playing about with K-bar knives. It was only the other day that Drip Drop released imagery showing the frats playing with these weapons. And some have said that the ROTC, whatever it is, that they do train, and that some of that is potentially combat training as well. I don't know. I can't see anything really that would support that. But some of these kids are involved in these sort of, these fitness and more military style stuff, and could they have been learning about certain things? Because when I read into that, the actual documentation around this course, a lot of that is to do with situation handling, how to go into specific situations and handle those situations. And I think it's quite safe to say that the Idaho 4, the night of what happened, was handled pretty well. We've almost turned around and a lot of us have felt, you know what, this feels very, very military. Very, very military in nature. People don't want to hear about the Brett Kopacker situation, even though what happened to him happened, and there's no denying it. This crime still reeks of a little bit of a military background. And we do know that also Bryan Kohberger was involved in it as well. Now, did Bryan Kohberger know any of these people around the peripheral? Does he know any of them at all? We don't know, but we're going to come back to that. So yes, we have a situation where we've got pictures of the frats with knives. We've got situations where arguments are happening in the background of people being threatened. And then we've got the crime itself that seems to be a situation that was handled quite well. Now, could somebody have been caught off guard, perhaps? The only thing that makes you think that this crime was done quite stealthily are 2 other students. Bare bones of it, Bethany and Dylan are just students. They're other students, aren't they? So we don't know what happened in terms of that night, but we do know that they've left the area never to return. Some people may say that they could have been lifetime traumatised for what happened. They don't want to return there. They're keeping well out of it, and they've got their lives to live, and they're going to go and live them somewhere else. But they did leave, and they did never come back. The guy who did this, if people are led to believe he's a guy, he's away. Everyone should be safe now. Everyone should be safe now. Bryan Kohberger was locked up. He's in a cage, never likely to get out, and he's going to lose his life at the end of this trial. So what has anybody got anything to be scared about? There isn't anything, is there? It's not like things like unexplained deaths happen around this area between Washington and Idaho often. This was the only thing that's happened since 2015. Or was it? Well, we certainly know that afterwards there was two things that was happening. So let's touch on this, shall we? Which brings me to this. Now, in terms of frats do stuff and then hide the fact they did it? Because that's the big thing. Now, I'm not turning around and saying the Idaho 4 situation was hazing related, but what I'm trying to get at is there a relationship between these brothers and sisters that mean that something very, very bad can happen and all of a sudden their mouths become tightly wedged shut? Now, they do say that loose lips sink ships, and that is something that is very, very true. So this is about frat member found dead at accused Idaho killer's former university. Now, this was back in January. This was reported on January 30th. A freshman fraternity member at Washington State University, where accused mass murder Brian Coburg was a PhD student, has been found dead in a dorm room amid claims he suffered inhumane and cruel hazing. Police responded on January 22nd to Perham Hall on the Pullman campus, where they discovered Luke Morgan Tyler dead, the Spokesman Review reported. WSU Assistant Police Chief Dawn Daniels, let me just try and get that on the screen so you guys can see it. Dawn Daniels told campus newspaper, the Daily Evergreen, that investigators were awaiting the Whitman County coroner's autopsy to determine the cause of death, but there were no indications of foul play. So let's just back up. He has been found dead in a dorm room amid claims he suffered inhumane and cruel hazing. Few lines forward, there is no indication of foul play. Sound familiar? Tyler was a member of Theta Chi Fraternity. His friend Emily Frowsing told the Spokesman Review. So there's a picture of the young man there. My heart goes out to his family. His death directly followed a long and cruel pledging process allowed by his fraternity, Theta Chi. Their inhumane and cruel hazing forced Luke and many others to do things nobody should ever be forced to do. The petition says, "We demand that Theta Chi be investigated, shut down, and the fraternity's president, as well as pledge masters and others with power in the fraternity, be investigated for involvement with the death of Luke Tyler." Aaron Lasher, Assistant Director for the Center for Fraternity and Sorority Life, wrote in an email to the Greek community that these situations evoke a variety of emotions, sadness, confusion, anger, and fear. So if we go down to here, I'll bring him on the screen so he gets centre place. She added, "We know that in these circumstances it's hard to make sense of what has happened. All of us want to help and we feel lost to know how to do so." The WSU in Fraternity Council, which oversees the fraternal groups at the school, declined to comment in the Spokesman Review. WSU spokesman Phil Weller said there has been a significant amount of conjecture regarding the circumstances surrounding this incident and the actual cause of the student's passing. So can you guess what it was put down to? Now, I've got the neighbour who's seemingly drilling outside, by the way, so do apologise for that. But yeah, so what they're now trying to say is that this is all conjecture about the hazing and such. What we're hearing here is that we've got a situation where they're not seemingly going to allow bad things to be said about the fraternity. And we've got this now, this article, which leads us on to where this has progressed throughout the year. So previously we're told that he was put through these cruel, horrible things that no one should be allowed to do. But it's conjecture to think that had anything to do with a guy who seemingly was a really happy and upbeat person until he went to this university. And then it would seem it would be ruled a self-deletion. The news of Luke Tyler's death has been a hotly discussed topic on the internet. Tyler was a student at WSU. Luke Tyler was found deceased in his bedroom on January 22nd. Police were called after discovering a student's dead body. It says... Everybody at the university was shocked to hear the news of his death. Well, probably not everybody, because there's obviously this hazing situation. Some people would potentially use their common sense and say, well, was this hazing and what he was put through enough to break him psychologically, and this is the repercussion of such? Even that. Do you know what I mean? Even that situation, even if he didn't die because of something directly, this is indirect, isn't it? But anyway, Washington State University shared condolences with Tyler's family and a tribute to the university freshman who died on January 22nd, 23 in his room. The cause of his death was unknown when he was first found in his room. The investigation continued for some time and the reason for his death was revealed. So basically what it is, look, they turn around and say about how he was discovered, his friends, so on and so forth. But what they've put it down to is this down here. So if we go down to here, it says, after the tragedy, many wondered how did Luke Tyler die. According to Whitman County Coroner Annie Pillars, he died from a lethal combination of alcohol and anxiety medication. It was later found to be a case of self-deletion. But why he took his own life has yet to be revealed. But Tyler's family mentioned that after joining the first semester, he went from a positive, compassionate and kind young man to a depression. He looked awry when he got home. His family said it wasn't like a typical day. It says Tyler also shared about breaking up with his close friends, and he was a member of Theta Chi, so people have guessed that he took his own life for his mental health. She clearly showed that he was not well in his state of mind. But I think, where did I read it down here? It says hair look. So right down there, hopefully the truth behind his death will be revealed in public soon. His family has disagreed with the police investigation and the reason for his death. Although almost a month has passed since his death, the investigation continues and his family have been fighting for him. Tyler's family and friends said he was a lovable and friendly boy. He was more interested in his physical condition and took it very seriously. So there we have it. We have a situation that, although it's not directly about the University of Idaho as such, it shows you this mentality where things can happen and nobody talks about it. Things can spiral out of control, perhaps. Things can go too far, and there is indeed a Greek wall of silence. So in terms of, with respect of the Idaho 4 situation, the question just has to be whether you believe that something could have spiraled out of control, whether it be an argument, whether it be a fight, whether it be something, and this sorority and fraternity, brother and sisterhood, decides that they need to clean stuff up, clear up what they can, make this look like someone else, and frame someone else, get somebody else to take the fall for it. And when you've got a situation that then brings in someone from Washington State University, so they're getting it not too close from home, but they're getting it into a situation where perhaps, it's not too far. You got some weirdo and, as someone who's easy targets, it could happen. I think it could. I'm not saying that is what happened here. But could you truly take it off the table that something else didn't break out closer to home and it ends up in a situation where they ain't going to say anything? They'll take this to their graves and watch someone else burn for it. Let me know down below what you think. I'll catch you all in the next one.